Okay, folks, this is Book Talk with Corbin. I'm your host, and we have a returning guest, friend of the show, good brother in the Lord, and he's gonna make an announcement today that I think is pretty daggone important, very important. And I not only want my listeners to carefully take note as to what this man's saying, but I like for my listeners to make sure that they forward this podcast to a minimum of three of their friends and ask those three friends to pass it on to two of their friends, because we need to get this out. Brother Matt, glad you're here with us.
Hey,
Yeah,
definitely, Corbin. I appreciate you having me on.
sure. And brother, you have an important announcement to make
Yes.
of what you plan on doing. So what is that announcement? What are you looking to do?
All right. I technically got this all filed about a month ago, but basically, I'm just going to go ahead and throw my hat out there. I am running for school board in the 5th district of Jefferson County.
Okay, fifth district.
Yes, in the 5th district.
And who is your opponent right now? Who right now is sitting in that seat?
Currently, it's Linda Duncan.
Okay.
And I'm not absolutely certain just because I've heard rumors, and you know how it is in politics. Everybody says this or says that, but
Well,
there were rumors that she might retire. Nevertheless, I'm ready to take on any opponent and go after this because basically this is a issue that has been in my heart. God's kind of put on my heart for many years actually, and prepared me for it.
hmm
Essentially, I am a product of the Jefferson County public school system. And I've seen things in my own experience. I went through a large amount of abuse when I was in middle school. And I even had my tooth knocked out.
Wow.
And, well, the good thing is I was young enough to where it regenerated. But nevertheless, I just went through a whole lot there. And there was a story by the Courier Journal that went over it back in the mid 90s. And essentially, I was able to find opportunities and get over these things and had a good career in athletics and wrestling. And essentially, after I moved on, then I felt a call to go into ministry. And I just saw a lot of youth. I'd been a youth minister a couple times and a children's minister. And essentially, you started to see some of the byproducts of what was going on in our system. And what's been going on lately, we kind of went into an advanced stage of the Jefferson County public school system, along with many other schools across the country. But essentially, this stuff has just gone rapid. However, we've had seeds planted. We've had bad seeds planted in our public school system for decades.
Mm.
And it's time to address this. There was a shooting back in September. A 16-year-old got shot to death, and a couple elementary school kids they were harmed and shot, but they weren't like shot to death or anything. I think it was Grace or something. But long story short, how can school be a safe place if you cannot even make it to school?
Right.
And when we see this stuff happen, if you homeschooled your kids versus having public school kids, who's more likely to have been, gone through these things, whether it's murder or fights or thieves or, rape and all this kind of stuff. This is not right. This is something, very perverted, and that's what's gone on in our school system. So that's where my heart's at. And I do have a platform, if you want me to go over that, with 4 points.
Yeah. If it's 4 points, go ahead and do them real quick, brother, please.
Okay. The first one is say no to indoctrination. The school systems are going out of bounds. They wanted to kick God out of the school, but I'm just asking, will they kick the devil out of school? They teach a lot of things that are what we call metaphysical. School for the public should just be physical. We should know about math, science, reading, technology. basically different business and survival skills. That's what it should be for. However, when they give their worldview and they instruct the children and then tell them that their grades depend on if they, repeat this worldview or repeat this mantra, there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
That is not what school is for. The parents should have autonomy. And that means the parents should instruct their children in their faith and in their life and their philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
The United States is a free country. We should have free minds. So that's the biggest thing. And there's a list of different forms. I think the most popular problem right now is the CRT movement, but there's dozens of other things. So that'll be the first point. And that's one of the problems. Is we could go over this for so many hours. Number 2, no low test scores. Now, we did a documentary recently, and Corbin, you participated, and we talked to an expert named Richard Ennis, and he showed 20, maybe 25 years of research into test scoring from children, and long story short, it's abominable.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke to an African-American group recently, and I asked them, is it acceptable for only 33% of African-American youth to read and write properly coming out of elementary school? They said no. I said, sorry, that was the white kids. The African-American kids are at 18%.
Right.
It's just horrible.
Yeah.
So that's the obvious next thing.
Let me stop you right there. You had mentioned Roy Ennis, and I just wanted to say to my listeners, go to my webpage, and you'll see that I have at least 2 interviews of Roy Ennis. So what Brother Matt is stating, what he's telling you, I mean, it's spot on. It's dead on. You just can't deny it. It's clear. And I'm glad that that was number 2 of his 4-point program. Continue, brother. Go into the third one.
Number 3, fiscal responsibility. This is one of those, I know it's not an emotional topic, but I'm just going to tell you straight up, okay? We went through a forced 9% tax raise about a year or 2 ago.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happened, some of us conservatives gave out a petition. And I'll tell you what, people talk about culture, but let me tell you, red and yellow, black and white, they did not think a tax hike was right, okay? It is a huge thing. And not to mention, this is the same organization that is, they got $500 million from Joe Biden, okay? They have a budget right now. They tried to get $2 billion, and then they passed $1.87 billion for just one county. And it's not like the biggest city. It's not like New York or LA, okay? But just one county needs almost $2 billion. And when they start to take this, it takes from the culture. And people wonder, what about my opportunities? Well, they just took your opportunities. And these kids, I believe the children of the future. Well, if the future stays the same route it's on right now, those kids will not have those opportunities. Somebody's got to pay back. Right. And so we are being crippled now by this giant, massive load. And there's a lot of things that, they could do better on. So that's my third point. Mm-hmm. Maybe not the most intellectual, but I'll tell you what, it's going to hit you. It's going to hit you hard, as if it's not already.
Right. Okay. Let's go into the fourth one. Fourth and final one.
Fourth one is safety. And this is both for children and teachers. When I was in the public school, back in middle school, I had my tooth knocked out. I had a classroom of, in a gym class, there's 5 classes combined, and they had a fellow start rallying everybody up while the gym teacher sat there for usually 45 minutes a day. They sat there on their rears for 45 minutes a day. We were just supposed to sit there. And so when the kids started getting rowdy, unfortunately, I was the victim. And so they would chant "Fat Matt" and all this kind of stuff, really scar me emotionally. Well, after all that said and done, I had to deal also with something that happened to my mother. Okay, my mother was a public school teacher. Now, I'm not going to say that we're going to agree on politics, okay? But I will say this. It really hit me hard. What happened was she was working in middle school at that time, and a middle school student jumped upon her back and basically crippled her, making her have to retire like a decade early.
Mm.
And, I don't know what her response was be about how she felt about it. Maybe she felt like that's, taking one for the team. But honestly, that's not okay with me. That's not okay with anybody to mess with my family. And teachers go through a lot of this stuff. And they're doing insane things right now. There are students who are not, they don't go home when they, get into a big brawl. They'll just keep them sitting there because they don't want to lose certain funding from the government. And, kids and adults are, being victim to, assault and possibly even greater things. We've heard about school shootings and stuff. We need to get control of this situation. And they're not. They're not on purpose. They're literally, and maybe, I've heard secret testimony, basically. Okay. They don't want to reveal themselves, but they told me the principals are saying, don't send them home, don't stop them, don't do this, don't do that. And they're letting all this evil happen. And that's got to come to a stop.
Yeah.
And,
Brother, let me do some quick questions. First, let's go back to, you just gave us your 4-point program, so to speak, which, very clear, very articulate as far as explaining to us why you want to run for the 5th district, right?
yes.
5th district seat. Now, what are some of the schools in the 5th district?
Basically, that would be surrounding like a large chunk of Valley Station, Fairdale, okay. Hillview, where I live, Iroquois Park area.
Okay.
And there might be a couple neighborhoods in the middle of that.
Okay.
And so, it's one of those things where, they give you like at least right now, they've given us like a little color code instead of specific areas.
Okay.
But basically schools within that area. So like definitely, from what I can see, Fairdale's totally covered. So let's say Fairdale High School would be an obvious one. Okay. Iroquois Park High School, or maybe that's Iroquois High School. I actually could just go walk down the street and look it up later. But yeah, Iroquois High School and, maybe Valley High School. There's another district there with a guy named Marshall's. That's probably his, but that's the general area.
And how would you describe Lyndon Duncan's voting record? What would be some few words that you would attach to her voting record?
Well, basically, she has said some nice sentiments in the past, and I appreciate anybody saying something, but essentially she's basically a liberal. She was, for instance, she was the one that led the charge of like, hey, let's, force the mask on everybody. That's what we got to do in the school system. And the problem is that masks don't work. Okay. It's just a little scientific fact. Unless you got the most high tech surgical mask covering everything up, mask will not, stop a virus from getting around those areas, especially when you itch and all that kind of stuff. Right. So it's not really effective, but it can be psychologically scarring. And I've seen that with an extended member of my family, just basically going into depression, a little girl, and, starting to like do all the black makeup thing and all that kind of stuff. Just a lot of, she's going through therapy. But basically, they can be scarring. They can also be not healthy because they're keeping in all your bacteria when you breathe. But there's several different issues which shows her to be more on the liberal side. Unfortunately, a D- will look like an A when you have a bunch of Fs around. And so, we've got some more pure, more, very strongly socialist leadership along with that as well. And so I'm really not only concerned about taking her spot against her, but I'm even more concerned about having a voice to the other board members and seeing if I can help move that system along.
Now, brother, is it, in